Yes, Hudur, what about Wal-Fajr wal-Layalin Ashr? It is also.
Wal-Fajr wal-Layalin. Let's read the full.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
وَالْفَجْرِ وَلَيَالٍ
no,
عَشْرٍ وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوَتْرِ.
والليل إذا
Yes.
يسر
هل
هل
في
في
ذلك
ذلك
قسم
قسم
لذي
لذي
حجر؟
حجر والفجر والليال عشر والشفع والوتر. It has been understood differently by the previous Mufassirin. Hadhrat Muslim Maud also has interpreted, the second head of the Ahmadiyya Jamaat, Khalifatul Masih IV, has also interpreted it as applicable to the whole Muslim history, what was to come. I begin it, that is of course correct and applicable, but I begin it with the beginning of the Fajr of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is that Fajr which brought light for the whole world. Wal Fajr wal Layalin Ashrin was Shafe wal Watr. After this Fajr would fade out, then would set in a night of 1,000 years. Layalin Ashrin is the Fajr Awaj which has been prophesied by Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Washafe wal Watr are the 3 centuries which follow. You see, Ahmad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and this can be looked at from different angles. Some say that add to that 300, and then it says Wallayli is a Yasr. And when that 13th night will begin to take its course, what would happen? Something is going to happen there. Inna fi zalika
هل في ذلك قسم
hal fi zalika qasamul lizi hijr. For those who think, is there not something special in this? And that special is that another light would be ushered at that period. And that is the beginning of the 14th century, or while the 13th century is still moving on, something is going to happen very special at that time. And that is the coming of the Imam Mahdi and the coming of the Messiah, who was to be like the 14th moon of the 14th. Every moon before him reflected the light of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, but this was to be the full moon. This is the difference, another difference between Al-Mahdi and other Mujaddideen before. The one who reflected the full glory of his master. This could only happen if every part of his life which was facing the master was lit and nothing stood in between. If a portion was left out, that much would be left dark. So there will be some dark areas of lack of knowledge and this and that in the cases of other Mujaddideen, but the one who is going to come by a level Layli is Yasr. It's a very interesting thing that Fajr is not mentioned here. One should expect that Allah would say, all right, there will be another Fajr. But here the Fajr means the rise of the sun, who would be the sun not only for one day or one night, or it is only metaphorical. He is the last sun who is going to rise for the whole of the mankind for all ages to come. No other religion will be brought by any other prophet. So it would be his light which people will benefit from, whether it's day or it's night. So even though the 13 nights are mentioned, during those 30 nights, a Najmu Saqib would help them, which we have already discussed. But at the end, as the 13th night proceeds, something very special is going to happen. And that is what always happens if you apply your mind, as Allah has pointed out. What happens? The 14th moon appears on the 13th night. You see? The moon of the 14th appears. That is the full moon. And it's so beautiful and so lovely and so overwhelming in its influence on human beings, even on the growth of life everywhere. So that is the Shan-e Ahmadiyyat. Hadhrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has two attributes. The first, the most powerful and glorious, is Muhammad. The second, which is milder in nature, which is more like moonlight than the sunlight, is Ahmad. So Allah says, if you have some wisdom here, tell me, is there not any special in that? Haven't you received the message? So this is the meaning of these qasams. They're all wonderful indicators and pointers at certain important events of Muslim history, or other things of nature, of course. There is one important question which should be raised here, and which should be answered and properly understood. What we hear from the traditions of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there are about 300 years which are included in the first phase of light, and then sets in the 1,000 nights, or 10 nights, or 1,000 years. You see? So this must be properly understood, otherwise we'll be attributing things to the Quran which the Quran doesn't say. We can't support it. This is not proper. As I understand it, I want to explain this proportion. Washafe wal Watr is a reminder of an other phenomenon which is night but cannot be included. I mean, if a different angle, I'm coming completely looking at it from a different angle. Remember, 10 nights would set in, of course. But Washafe wal Watr, there are 2 and 1 following, which cannot be treated like total darkness as you see in the 10 nights. From this angle, they will not be at the end of the 10 nights, but in the beginning. The first 3 nights stand halfway between night and day, because Thumma Lazina Yulunuhum, Thumma Lazina Yulunuhum is the tradition which I have in my mind. 3 generations after Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah are promised light. So which means that when the sun sets, there is a long period of twilight. And the twilight period, in the case of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah, because his light was so immense and so intense, would be much longer than ordinarily we think. So there the word lal is not applied. Now reread it and then you will understand the meaning. Wal fajre, wal layalin ashrin, there are 2 things.